We are going to start the plenary session 1. And in the session, we have the context, the current status on MHM policies, gaps, and the future priorities. Requesting to welcome the panel head, Mr. Neeraj Jain, Director Growth Operational Asia, Middle East, and the Europe of AMEE Path. Please give it a hand and let's welcome Mr. Neeraj Jain. And we have on the panel, please welcome Dr. Komal Goswami, Chief of the Party Plan India. Give it a hand and let's welcome Dr. Komal Goswami. Please welcome our next panelist, Ms. Tanya Mahajan, co-founder of Menstrual Health Action for Impact MHAI. And please give it a hand and let's welcome our next panelist, Ms. Puja Mahajan, Chief Executive Officer, Child Rights and You. Sir, please do the honor.
What a wonderful morning session. So many wonderful speeches, so many wonderful actions. Of course, my favorite part was the bikers coming in. Did anybody else enjoy that? Yeah? Let's see a show of hands. Come on. Now we are done with the speeches. Now we'll just do I've got 3 fiery, feisty ladies here, and we're going to ask them some difficult questions, pull them out of their comfort zone, and try and figure out what they think, right? But before I go there, I want to thank Gramalaya, my dear friend, Dr. Damodaran, Ravi, Asif, all of you for inviting me here. Just to, go back a little. So we're not going to introduce the panelists and do all of that because I've been told that I need to finish in 30 minutes. So I'm going to finish in 30 minutes. We're also not going to do a Q&A, but the panelists will be around. So if you want to talk to them individually after, please go ahead. All right? Okay, to give you a little context, and I'm going to talk a little bit also from the government policy side. We've seen some policy focus over the last few years. And I think Gramalaya can take a lot of credit for some of that policy work at the national level. The menstrual hygiene scheme, the Rashtriya Kishore Swasth Karyakram, these have expanded since 2011. And the policy is there. A lot of the policy is there. I think the challenge we find is in the implementation. And that's also why the inequalities exist, right? So how is this actually coming to life? We believe that 7 out of 10 rural girls still don't have or have limited access to affordable pads, not enough guidance for safe hygiene practices, knowledge, so those issues persist. According to even the NFHS 5, only 78% of the young women aged 15 to 25 now use some form of hygienic menstrual products. So still a long way to go. Some states, Maharashtra being a good example, it has actually developed a robust cross-sectoral MHM policy and is showing the big advantage of merging education, WASH and health efforts. So we are seeing that happen in Maharashtra, we are seeing that happen in some states, but probably a lot more needs to be done. Of course, climate risks we've talked about, so I won't belabor that issue. What we possibly need to do, and I think I'm going to ask my co-panelists to actually elaborate on that, but really to look at multi-sectoral models, like the Maharashtra's Asmita Yojana that I just talked about, need to integrate subsidized products, education and WASH improvements through joint government, NGO and SHG action. So it's not a it's not a government's responsibility by itself or an NGOs or an SHGs. And, I'm sorry that our government panelists had to leave, but we are actually well represented on this panel across the sectors. We need to drive behavior change for sure, which is not an easy task. And I've been part of the Swachh Bharat movement when I was at WaterAid, so I know how difficult that is. We need to also scale up partnerships in SCSR. We need to look at government budgets and what could be opened up more. Local women-led enterprises, we've seen some, and I was very impressed by Neeraj's speech, but also when I walked in, if you haven't already, you must see at the back there are a lot of organizations who are sort of displaying some of their products. We must get more robust information. So all the data that I presented to you is probably all suspect. Do you believe that data? Tanya, you do? Okay, good. All right. Okay, so we still need to do a lot of work on some improving on that data. We need to also inform funding decisions which are going to lead to sustainable change. We need to adapt strategies that are going to need to evolve as we go forward. And we need to also think about disasters and climate change. I think all stakeholders, whether it's government, private sector, NGOs, and communities, must align. We are probably still working a lot in silos. And we need to also align funding, data, and delivery with a single goal, guaranteeing safe menstrual health as a right for every girl. We're going to talk about what can be done to bring a change, spanning policy, the market dynamics, which is critical, education, sanitation, and most importantly, health equity. So I'm going to now start jumping into my questions. And I have a list of questions. The first one was for the government. Unfortunately, Sunila ji had to go. But Komal, let me move to you. And I'm going to request my panelists not to talk about their organizations. We're not here to sell our organizations. We're here to make a change in the sector, right?
Absolutely.
I think you all know where they come from. You all know that they're doing fantastic work within their organizations. I also believe I am. So, but let's focus on the problem at hand. So, Komal, the MHM agenda has truly shifted from pad distribution, which when I came into this sector 12 years ago, we were only talking about pad distribution. And I'm glad to see this has shifted. And has moved to dignity, choice, and rights in the last decade. And where are we still stuck in tokenisms? And I really want to understand from your thoughts on what is it that is still holding us back. Yeah. Over to you.
Thank you.
And short responses, we have only 30 minutes.
Absolutely. We are on a marathon, sir. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, first of all, sir, and Sai, sir, and everyone who is the organizer for making me sit in such a decorated panel. I'm pretty sure that there are people who are much more experienced than me over here. But my quick journey, so I know Sai sir from last 5 years now. We have been a partner of Gramalaya and Dettol Banega Swasth India since last 5 years. And I know the struggles in menstrual hygiene management that Gramalaya and Sai sir has personally been facing and doing some good work down south. I think, sir, devoting to your question, not going into the specific numbers because we all know about NFHS 5 data, how we have come far from NFHS 4 to NFHS 5, but just a thought which comes to my mind when I was sitting over there is, at one point of time, right now, almost half of the world is menstruating, right? And nobody's talking about it. I'm pretty sure that in this entire, group of gathering, a lot of us are menstruating. But it is such a big taboo to even talk about it and even, just to acknowledge. So I think, the policy gap comes from not just, making and distributing pads. It comes from #breaking the silence, which is the theme of this MHM summit. We are not talking about it enough. Kudos to Gramalaya team for making the first village, first school which is menstrual friendly village. But that is just a start, sir. There are, the data says that there are so many challenges. I think 5.6 times girls are more likely to drop out from the school because of menstruation. And the cause are pain management, it's stigma, and a lot of other things. It's about educating, it's about giving access, it's about giving awareness, and also the agency. We know that, in a family background or in a family setting, almost 74% of mothers in India are giving the responsibility to talk about menstruation with their, daughters. But do that 74% mothers are empowered enough to even informed enough to give that knowledge? We just saw the case study where women themselves are so much, subdued and not ready to talk about it. So I think giving the right information at very right time is the critical issue that we need to address, and that's why breaking the silence is important, sir.
Wonderful, Komal. And if you say sir once more, I'm going to retire after this panel. You got to get rid of sir, okay? This is what the British left us as legacy. We need to stop this. But you're talking still about the how, the what. What do we need to do? Do all of us know what we need to do? Come on, let's see a show of hands. Do you know what you have to do? How? How long are you going to rely on this young gentleman, Damodaran, to lead this charge? How are we going to do this? How are we going to make it a movement? How are we going to communicate? How are we going to break these barriers, these taboos? And I think I'm going to move to the other panelists, but I want you to think about it, and I want both of you to think about it. How is this going to happen? I think we need to move from experience. You know, you just said you had so much experience, but we become cynical. We just come back to the same panels and say the same things. But how are we going to do this? And that's actually going to be an important part from going forward. How are we going to do this? So how are we, but I like the idea of empowering and power to the woman, and how do we make that happen? So I'm going to stay with the how. And I'll come to Tanya. Tanya has been a good ally and a friend for many, many years. And one of the sort of voices which has sort of stayed over, 2 decades now, Tanya?
I'm not that old.
Are you getting cynical or not yet?
I'm not that old first.
Well, I know 10 years for sure.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping you're not getting cynical and you still have hope. And I want to come back to you and ask you at the systems level, both from the market perspective and from a health systems perspective, what are the challenges? Because if we are able to identify those systemic challenges, then maybe we are going to come to an answer of how, right? How do we get access to products and services for menstrual health? And then we move towards the right side, which Puja would be very sort of wonderful at. So over to you, Tanya.
Thanks, Neeraj. Thanks for that question. And no, I'm not getting cynical. In fact, today I am more hopeful than I've ever been, because I do see stakeholders, governments, everybody trying to look at this issue from a wider systems lens, which is what I'm going to be talking about today. And finally, we are moving beyond free distribution and handing out giveaways only. So first, to understand the systems level problem, what are we looking at here? Talking about access to products, we are looking at 390 plus million menstruating people in our country today. And this number is poised to grow to over 400 million by 2035. So this is by no means a small number. And almost half of this population is menstruating, and they are young people under 30 years of age. And they are going to be menstruating for 33 years of their lives. Again, huge numbers to account for, to provide for. How much money is needed for free distribution to actually serve this population? Currently, again, I will use the NFHS number to say that access has increased from 58 to 77%, but that's only young people, 15 to 24-year-olds. If you look at the overall landscape, currently only half of the population has access. 48% of menstruating people today do not have access to all the products they need. And if a government was to account for that only through free distribution today, I've just done some back of the envelope calculation, we need 2,300 crore rupees every year to serve that need. Every year. Does the government have that kind of budgets? And will it have that kind of budget consistently forever? Does it need to have that, right? So where is the problem here that we are seeing? Is that the key platform that is providing to the large consumer base, which is the private sector or the industry or the market, is broken. That's where the true inefficiency lies. Currently, markets provide for most of the access. So I think most of the people who are using purpose-made products, and by purpose-made products, mostly that's single-use pads, 90% of those are accessing them from markets. Markets offline, online, rural, peri-urban, urban. So markets are what are driving access in the country today. But the markets are failing. Why? Because they are primarily providing single-use products. Reusable products, which a lot we are working on, you're trying to create that category, but you're doing it alone. The market is not supporting that currently. Reusable products offer 15 times the cost savings for, compared to single-use products. But currently, if I were living in a rural location and I wanted to buy a product which is a period panty or a menstrual cup, I cannot access that. Maybe I can online, but offline I cannot. So that is where our markets are failing us. That is where our markets are inefficient. That is where it's a systemic economic issue, which some folks have alluded to even earlier. So that's the problem that I would say is the largest one for us to address in order to come at this issue from a systemic lens.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tanya. And now we're moving towards, so Tanya is solving the problem. Right? How? Amazon? 1mg?
Maybe.
I don't know. I mean, the public health system. There are those systems which exist, and the market's broken is the larger problem. Of course, the 2,300 crores is going to be a challenge. So probably part of it could be subsidized and part of it could be not, right? Yes. That could be a possible how to actually get there. Thank you, Tanya. Puja, you're somebody I admire a lot because you can be very crazy. So I want you to be very crazy, all right? You know, think about the how, but I also want you to think more or talk more about the whole child's right and rights perspective. And what is the accountability mechanism we should trigger when a girl misses school for menstruation? I think we all know that that happens, right? Let's not go back to that. Who's responsible and what is the remedy that we need to follow for that child? If you could talk to us on that. Over to you.
Is that working? Yeah. Thank you, Neeraj. And thank you for that energy of saying it's not enough for us to sort of, look at policy is always great, of course, because policy change gives us resources, it gives us, a framework around which we can then work. But the real issue is really, to my mind, as you're saying, it's about responsibility. Do we see it as the right of a young menstruating woman, a young, old, whatever, to actually have access to the knowledge and to the hardware? So I see a lot of work, and we've heard so much in this morning about both the schemes and the work that is done to how do we get access to pads or menstrual cups or whatever it is that young women need. There is, as yet, I think, the issue of it being seen as a right to dignity, a right to, and flowing from that right of, this is something that happens to me. It is deeply troubling. How does that actually how does it play out in the field? We have seen disastrous examples, right? So we go out there with full good intention, government, school, and all of that. And that responsibility, I believe, like you said, when a girl misses school, sits in that school. The school, the administration must take responsibility that the reason she is missing school could be the absence of toilets. I have sat in groups where girls have told me how their school has gender segregated toilets, they're clean enough, but they don't have locks because you might commit suicide, it seems. Right? I mean, it's ridiculous, the extent that we go to interfere, but not to empower. because you don't see it from a rights perspective, right? So it is about the school, it is about the health providers who work with the family, and it is about the families. I was so happy to see the community-led initiatives, because as you correctly said, mothers who are, of course, burdened with this as much as all other mothers, how much do they actually know? You know, we sat in our office and we talked to our own young women. And we asked them, what is your experience of periods? The shame. These were young women with postgraduate degrees, yeah, sitting there saying, I was told that I could not go into the puja room. I was told X. And I still inherently believe it, even though my head knows that this is wrong. So when are we going to actually look at that reality of saying, this is actually Margaret Mead, who's one of my favorite anthropologists, said something very interesting. She said, women's power, the power they have comes from the power of procreation. And therefore, the thing about women that empowers procreation, which is periods, has been shamed, has been quietened, has been made something dirty and filthy that nobody should talk about. Because women should not claim that power. I mean, end of the day, the one thing men cannot do is have periods, is make, is actually make our human race go forward, right? All races, animal, etc., are only interested in that in the end. And to my mind, that's the level at which we've got to go after it. So yes, supply is important. The schemes, it's so wonderful now to have SHM, to be able to demand in a school for activists that you need to have vending machines. You need to, but the work that we need to do at demand end with young women. I mean, we have found small things like empowering young girls to keep period diaries. Just track it. Be open about it. Have the chat. Seek the help. I find it's very interesting. When you're older, even gynecologists lose interest in you, by the way, when you stop menstruating. Because like, अब तो बच्चे नहीं रहता है, ठीक है, तुम भाग जाओ इधर से, right? But do you know the number of women who don't seek? I have 2 women in my family who nearly died because they did not seek medical help because it was a period-related issue. कैसे जा सकते हैं? It's natural. Okay, it's slightly heavy, right? And they nearly died. I'm not exaggerating, right? So really, we've got to get at it at that level. We have to put the resources into figuring out how we are going to get everyone to change attitudes. So that I don't have to walk into a chemist, and when I buy my pads, poor man has to wrap it in one black packet or brown packet and all that. Because, oh dear, so shameful. Yeah. So, yeah.
Fantastic. You are still evading the how question, Puja, and I'm gonna keep chasing you on that, because 700 million people in our country, or women in our country, sorry, 700 million, 750 maybe, yeah. How are we going to change this? We can't do it one village at a time. We can't do it. The policy is there, but who's going to implement the policy? How are we going to do it? So maybe I'm going to request you after this meeting to actually come up with a grand plan for India and say, how are we going to do it? And how are we going to bring the rights perspective in? All right? So I'm going to come back to you. But also, you talked about the girl having a right, but actually the family has a right too. The family should go back to the school, and there are mechanisms in the system to be able to do that, to say, listen, this is the minimum thing that we need. Okay, for my panelists now, we have, as per the organizers, another 15 minutes. Okay. Oh, so okay, I've just been told by Puja the organizers are missing, so we can go on. No organizer here? Oh, she's there. Puja, you are going to get me into trouble here. All right. So, coming to you again, Puja. And now you've got 3 minutes to tell us what is that one ecosystem fix that would deliver the best equity? That's one question. Okay, why don't you answer that first? Go ahead. What is that one thing that you think will actually help greatly? And remember, I'm going to take you up on this and I'm going to make you responsible. So
That's what I'm wondering.
go for it.
I would really say that the one ecosystem fix we need to, as you can imagine, I'm on the side of creating a demand and awareness. And if we were able to create both an understanding and acceptance of this is my right and I can access it, then the uptake on everything that is available, whether through the market, whether through the school system, and as you correctly pointed out, it's only the school system. What do we do with older women? That was a really amazing insight and not struck me that, we're celebrating the school thing, but what happens to other women?
But I still want the how.
हाँ, ठीक है. So we've actually experimented with some awareness programs, but I think that if we were to do it together concertedly, at every level, right? It's not one cry doing one awareness program, but if we were to look at how do you deliver this through the meetings you're having, through the community meetings, through the mothers' meetings, there could be SHGs. We find there are many places where you can work with young women, both as mothers, as adolescents, in adolescent groups. So when you're looking at reproductive health programs, you must look at menstrual health programs as well to increase the understanding and the uptake. At least to me, that part is going to be critical for anything to succeed, because we can put the infrastructure in place, but if there is no uptake, how are we going to crack that? So to me, at least, that's
Wonderful.
Really, really critical.
So concerted awareness campaign targeted at those 400 million girls that Tanya spoke about.
Awareness and empowering,
Now
I
there's a
think.
how.
Yeah, there is a
Right?
how, of course.
That's the how. Thank you,
It can
Puja.
be done.
I managed to corner you into the how.
Yeah.
So, but this is a good one. All right, Komal, coming back to you. What kind of a coalition will enable access to deliver MHM and I know I was told not to say that, at scale? And what metric would unlock the funding tranches? You have 2 minutes.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Neeraj. So I was trying to formulate the answers in my head, and everything that all of us spoke made me confused. Like, how do I answer this big question of how? So I just divided into two parts. One is awareness, the other is access. So let's just elaborate in 1 minute. Awareness. So awareness starts from very young. Let's not go to the awareness campaign which is out of school. Let's just focus on school. We all have read, we all are like 10th graduate, right? There was the reproductive cycle chapter and there was a section on menstruation. It was taught as a chapter. Among boys and girls, is it elaborated till date? What is menstrual hygiene management? It was about the anatomy and physiology of a menstruation and nothing beyond that. So what is that life skill that we are giving to the children who are boys and girls and diverse, gender diverse, from the very foundation? And then let's go to the awareness campaign which is out of school, which is not foundational, etc. So just 1 minute on that. And the second is access. Again, two kinds of access. One is access, I will try to elaborate in the schools. In the data, we see that, we have girls' toilet available, the data around it. Do we have mapped girls' toilet with water access? Do we have girls' toilet mapped with maybe incinerators? Do we have that kind of data? It doesn't exist. It is not even an indicator that can be captured. The second is definitely access on, we all know that periods are expensive. It's very expensive, right? We use Whisper, it's super expensive, and the price is going up day by day. And I commend the organizations who are doing social innovation, who are making reusable pads, who are experimenting time and again, making it affordable as per India's economy. But as per India, the country that we are in, periods are still expensive and it's still a privilege to have pads. And then comes the entire supply chain of cotton, of maybe plastic or maybe cloth and a lot of other things. So the systemic issues are so much that I cannot answer, Neeraj, your question. How is Ministry of Women and Child, Ministry of...
I'm not letting you off the hook. I'm sorry, Komal. I know
NGOs, private
you're trying
players.
very hard, but I'm not going to let you off the hook. But what you've just done is you've increased the 400 million to another probably 200 million younger kids. And I think that's a wonderful thought. And that's also how do we get them younger? How do we make sure that we're able to push that button? Unfortunately, I've got 2 boys. But fortunately, they're very happy to talk about periods. They're very happy to talk about menstrual hygiene. And we do have dinner table conversations around it. They know I'm here today. They're looking forward to hearing what happens. But I like this idea, awareness and access. And frankly, Tanya talked about access. Puja talked about awareness. So we are actually coming down to 2 solutions, right? Awareness and access. How do we do it for the 600 million people that we're talking about is the question. Tanya, give us some more solutions. What are the opportunities for system change?
Yes. I think the biggest opportunity is to bring the feminist lens to markets, to make markets feminist. Currently, markets are driven by patriarchy, which is why you only hear about single-use pads, which is why you only, that's the only narrative, right? Why does this awareness generation have to be done? Because that choice in information is not available to us. Markets are dominated by information asymmetry, where we are only hearing about a single type of product from the largest players in that sector. There are a lot of, India is, it's a breeding ground for innovations. There's so many new products, so many new companies.
Tanya, how?
I'm coming to that. So many new companies, product options that are now available in the reusables category and single-use disposable category, which are more environmentally friendly. We need to provide ecosystem support to those players through both funding and technical support and the right regulatory frameworks. That includes pathways for market introduction like standards. That includes looking at taxes from a value chain perspective. Currently, we have zero GST. But if you go into that zero GST, it's only applicable to single-use pads and tampons within that HS code. So it should be applicable to all products or not. We need to understand the economics of the taxation across the value chain. And all of these SMEs who are providing solutions in this space, they are literally fighting the fight alone. We need to create platforms where they have a voice, they can come together, they have access to finance, they have access to, a voice on the policy table, both at the level of the country and to explore export markets. Why should Indian innovators not be going out and exporting to other countries? So making menstrual product markets feminist is not just in the interest of the consumer, it's also in the interest of the government from an economic perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thanks, Tanya. Wonderful. Ecosystem support. I think that is a good mantra for a solution perspective. Okay, I don't have time left. I will give each of the panelists 1 minute to make a commitment of what you're going to champion over the next 1 year, because we are going to meet here again next year. I'm sure Gramalaya will do the 6th edition. I'm hoping they will invite me. They may not after the way I've run this panel, but I hope they do. There's Damodharan standing there and deciding whether he's going to invite me or not. But tell me, what will you do? What is it, that one thing that you're going to do over the next 1 year?
Neeraj, individually, I think we co-created Maternal Child Health Tech Accelerator. Let's co-create accelerator or social enterprise model, something challenging for the world to make a sustainable solution.
You promised to do that next.
Yes.
And you've dragged me into it too, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's do it together. All right.
We'll do
okay,
that.
I'm going to go to Tanya.
So I think our commitment has been to ecosystem support in this area. We've been working on standardization for the last so many years. But over the next year, we really want to focus our energies on supporting SMEs and providing a formal platform or almost like a growth circle where people can come together and bring forward what is needed for advocacy, what is needed for funding, what is needed for technical support.
We would love to, I would again love to work with you on that. So let's partner on that. I'm not going to work with the right side because I'm not good at that, but I would love to work with you on that. All right, last word, Puja.
Yeah, so I work with 300,000 children, both girls and boys. And we are working with them on an awareness of their menstrual rights. We have over 3,000 adolescent groups. And within that, we have to work with making sure that our facilitators are shedding the shame and the stigma and ensuring that there is knowledge and there is access. And I'm hoping, therefore, that in the 120 locations, at least CRY is in. We should be able to get the kind of schools that I've heard talked about today.
Fantastic.
That we can access and activate those rights in those schools.
So Tanya is going to fix the ecosystem. You're going to do an accelerator, come up with good solutions which can be pushed through Puja's system of 300,000 adolescents. We've got a whole partnership developing here. So thank you so much. Thank you for the wonderful conversation. I hope we didn't bore the audience out there, and I will hand over back to you. 3 or 4 minutes extra? No, I mean, I'm done. I said I went over by 3 or 4 minutes. We're good? All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give it a hand once again. Such a great panel discussion. I think I'm the only one who listened everything, and there are so many thoughts. But after all, they gave the solution, the questions, and the answers are there only. I think you are the change maker. You know how to start and where to start, actually. So now I request Damodaran sir to present the mementos and the Angvastram to all the panel head and panelists. Please do the honor. Requesting, please give it a hand for the Neeraj Jain ji, our panel head. Everyone, please give it a hand in the meanwhile. At least appreciate them. Now I request, please present the memento to Dr. Komal Goswami. Now I request to present the memento our next panelist, Ms. Tanya Mahajan. Give it a hand, everyone, once again. Please give it a hand for Ms. Puja, Marwaha. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to all the panelists, the panel head for the amazing session.